everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Barbara Mayetta. I'm with 12 Points Wealth Management. I'm a wealth advisor here, and I work primarily with people who are approaching retirement or early in retirement. And I love working with people at this stage of life because at this stage, you have more knowledge, more life experience, more wisdom, and more confidence than ever before. And if you choose to, you can go out and find your passion and actually go out and achieve it because you have so much more ability at this point in life. But one of the things that's really important as you get into this stage of life is maintaining and keeping your health in your health span. So I've been working with PJ Wren, working with, meaning I feel like I'm working with her, but she's on video and I'm doing her workouts. But I've been working with PJ since the pandemic. My daughters actually found her for me. They are both college coaches, and they approve of PJ's methods and her training and keeping her workouts safe. She understands the injuries that women get as they get a little bit older, so you can help modify or give you modifications to work through her workouts. But she keeps them challenging. She doesn't dumb them down just because women are a little older and perceived as being a little weaker. I am a member of Over 50 Fitness, and I do her workouts, mostly for strength training workouts, about 3 times a week. But I also very much use her workouts for warm-ups and mobility also. PJ adds her personality and humor to her workouts, as well as encouragement and lots of tips for how to approach training for women over 40. I believe PJ has made me a stronger, more confident woman, and therefore I want to introduce you to her to understand what she has, her knowledge for people over 40 who are training. And I would suggest everybody look at PJ's videos on YouTube or explore Over 50 Fitness. And with that, I will turn it over to
PJ. Wow, thanks, Barbara. First off, in the chat box, can you write your name and maybe where you're coming in from? I'd love to get an idea. I'm up here in Canada on the West Coast, just outside Vancouver. If you're unfamiliar with Zoom, there's a chat icon there. Just click that and that'll open up your webinar chat. Maybe type your name. As Barbara said, we're going to review fitness, in particular strength training for women over 40. Nobody wants to type. Are you guys feeling shy today? All right. Well, I'm going to, oh, there's a Q&A. Oh, chat seems to be disabled. Thank you. Barbara, I think that's on your end.
Let me see what I can do.
And while Barbara figures out that, I'm going to share my screen here. So once again, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. For the next 25-ish minutes, I'm going to share some research that most fitness programs actually completely ignore. And that's in particular our generation, our age, and being women. So by the end, I'm hoping that you'll know exactly what you've been told about fitness after 50 may actually be working against you. Now, a little bit about me. I've been in the industry for over 30 years now. I've been in it longer than I haven't. I've owned multiple gyms, studios. I worked for the Healthy Heart program at St. Paul's Hospital in Vancouver. I've written for health magazines, for newspapers. I had a fitness TV show that beamed across Canada, and then COVID happened and I just rethought my entire business plan and we went completely online. 5 years ago, launched Over 50 Fitness, which is a fantastic community for women and a few good men who want to age strong. I'm very passionate about making sure we get every woman in the world a set of dumbbells and get them lifting. And I'll tell you why it's so important. Now, we're going to cover what's actually happening to your body, why it's not your fault. Maybe your old approach to fitness has stopped working. Then we'll look at the science, what actually works for women our age, bust some myths that maybe could be keeping you stuck. We'll talk a little bit about hormones and how to train with them and not against them. Nutrition, specifically protein, which most women are massively under eating. And then I'm going to finish off with sort of your exact next 30-day plan to get you aging strong. Now, your body has changed. It's no doubt as we get older, it changes, but it's not a death sentence, it's a signal. We lose about 3 to 8% muscle per decade, starting in our 30s, actually. And if we don't work to specifically preserve it, it will keep on declining. By 50, without the right training, that loss is actually going to accelerate. And muscle isn't just about how we look, right? It's our metabolism, it's our bone support, and it's our independence. We recover slower. Recover literally takes longer as we get older. That's not weakness, that is biology. Now, most programs are still designed around the 25-year-old recovery time. So this is why you might be finding that you get a lot of overuse injuries or you've plateaued in your fitness program. And then we will talk about how strength training will actually reduce your cardiovascular mortality. And here's a headline stat I really want you to remember. Women doing strength training just 2 to 3 times a week actually cut their cardiovascular risk factors by 30%. Not running, not spin class, but lifting weight. So the key here is the body that you have 45, 55, 65, 75 is not a lesser body. It's a body that's going to respond to different inputs, and it's our job to provide those inputs. Now, what happens as we get older and what happens to our muscle? Sarcopenia is a medical term for age-related muscle loss. And as I mentioned earlier, quietly starts in our 30s, about 1% a year. But after menopause, that rate really increases. The chart here shows relative muscle mass over time without strength training. By age 70, we're looking at roughly 36% less muscle than at 30. And again, that's not a cosmetic problem, that's a functional problem. Your ability to carry groceries, climb stairs, stay independent. Now, estrogen plays a big role too, and many people don't realize how much. For instance, it actively protects our muscle by regulating what's called satellite cells. These cells are responsible for muscle repair. So as estrogen declines, 2 things are going to happen. Your muscles are going to take longer to recover, and your body's going to break down those cells faster after exercise. This is, again, why what worked at 25 isn't necessarily going to work at, well, not necessarily, it won't work at 55. It's not due to lack of effort on your part, it's biology. And then we have insulin sensitivity. Muscle tissue is your body's primary site for glucose disposal. It handles about 80% of the sugar you eat. Less muscle means your body has fewer places to put that energy, which contributes to blood sugar issues, weight gain, especially around the midsection, and energy crashes. Building muscle is one of the most powerful metabolic interventions available to us. Now, it's worth noting, too, that menopause hormone replacement therapy is a great alternative as we decrease in estrogen and get into menopause, and that's a discussion to have with your doctor. What we're covering today is going to work whether or not you are on MHT. Now, why strength training is your number one tool? Bone density, right there. Strength training, especially exercises that load your skeleton like squats, deadlifts, chest press, is the most evidence-backed way to prevent osteoporosis. The impact stimulus tells your bones to get stronger, denser. Cardio doesn't do that. So going for a walk does not improve your bone density. And I hear that a lot with women in my community when they get diagnosed. They're quite discouraged because they do a lot of walking and they're out there. But unfortunately, your body is used to carrying around your body weight 24/7. So it's not enough stimulus to build bone and prevent that breakdown that happens as we age. Your heart health. Remember that 30% stat? Well, resistance training is going to protect your heart in ways cardio can't fully replicate. It improves arterial flexibility, lowers your resting blood pressure, and reduces inflammation. Metabolism. This one's a big one. For every pound of muscle, you're going to burn an extra 6 to 10 extra calories per day at rest. So that's not while you're exercising, that's just sitting here, maybe watching this webinar. May not sound like much, but 10 pounds of new muscle will burn an extra 100 calories daily by just simply existing. So strength training is one of the ways to actually raise your metabolic rate. Now, your brain and mood are also affected when you start strength training. And this one surprises many people. Resistance training has shown to consistently outperform cardio in studies on depression reduction. It also improves cognitive function, memory, and focus. Blood sugar levels, as we discussed, your muscle is your glucose disposal system. Women with more muscle mass have dramatically better insulin sensitivity. And then finally, there's your independence, the ability to get up off the ground unassisted, carry your own bags, play with your grandchildren. This is all muscular strength. And it's the most important predictor of quality of life as we age. Now, this independence angle also becomes a goal of ours as we get older. It's no longer, I want to look great in a bikini. That would be great too, but it's more, we want to be independent. And this independence is going to look different for different women in different ages of their life. The 45-year-old, that could mean having the energy to work full-time, care for her family, and maybe care for her aging parents. The mid-50s to help regulate their hormones and nervous system. The 60-year-old to keep traveling effortlessly. And then 70 and 80-year-old starts looking more what we traditionally think of being independent. Age in place in your home, maintain balance, stay social. Now, there are a lot of myths that keep women weak. One of them is lifting will make me bulky. We don't have the testosterone levels required to build bulky muscle by accident. Men have 10 to 30 times more testosterone than women. The women you see with large visible muscle, well, they have trained for years, decades, with a specific goal in mind, often with a very specific nutrition plan and supplementation. For the rest of us, strength training is going to create a lean, toned physique, not bulk. The women who say, I got too bulky from lifting, we're usually actually eating a significant caloric surplus at the same time. Another myth is cardio is better for weight loss. And this really was big when I first started in the industry. Yes, cardio burns calories, but strength training is actually going to burn calories when done at a high intensity during and after. They call it an afterburn session. More importantly, cardio alone, especially steady state cardio at high volumes. So for instance, maybe training for a marathon, that can actually break down muscle tissue. Now, for women over 40 who are already facing accelerated muscle loss, doing only cardio is going to be a double loss to your muscle. Yes, you'll burn some calories, but you're also going to lose muscle, which is also going to slow your metabolism even further. And then another myth, I'm too old to start. This one frustrates me because the research is so clear and we see it in our community as well. There are meaningful strength gains that can happen to women in their 60s, 70s, and 80s who begin resistance training. The body retains its ability to build muscle throughout its life. This stimulus response mechanism, it doesn't expire as we get older. So what matters really is starting, not perfectly, just starting. Now, there's another myth too that I'll quite often hear is I'm going to get injured with strength training. And you know what? A properly planned out, taught resistance training program is actually going to lower your injury rate more than, say, running or most cardio activities. Now, your hormones, right? They change as we age. Perimenopause, roughly 40s to 50s. And again, these are all generalized statements, but this is our transition phase, and this can be a wild and fun time, can it? If you don't know me well, that was said with sarcasm. Estrogen is fluctuating unpredictably. It's all over the place, sometimes high, sometimes crashing. This means, your energy, your recovery, your mood's going to swing week to week. The key during menopause, and I'm not sure if any of you are in this, when you're exercising, is consistency over intensity. Don't try to push yourself through days when you're feeling terrible. Honor the signals your body's giving you. A lighter session is always going to be better than no session. And then there's menopause around age 51. Estrogen's going to drop significantly now, stabilizing more at a lower level. Now, this is when training volume becomes more important. German research has found postmenopausal women need 12 or more sets per muscle group per week, compared to 6 to 8 for younger women. The stimulus threshold is higher, and your program needs to meet that. You also need to take into consideration rest and mobility. That's why many people actually end up joining Over 50 Fitness, because we program the workout calendars, so all of that is baked in. You don't have to think about that. Now, postmenopausal, when you're off of your last menstrual cycle, you're through your transition, your hormonal environment is fairly stable, but lower. The good news is your body is going to respond predictably and really well to progressive strength training. This is the phase where women will see the most dramatic transformations because they are training on a regular basis. And this is a key point too, to take it, that this is where recovery actually becomes really important. As we age, we lose water in our tendons and our ligaments, and our tendons and ligaments also don't recover at the same time that our muscles do. So they'll continue to break down. So if you need a rest day, you need a rest day. It's not a failure day. Now, if you're on, sorry, I just need a sip of water.
You did just say something about keeping water in our muscles, so that made me want to drink too, PJ.
Good. See how we're so easily influenced by words. Now, protein. If you're on social media, you're being inundated with eat more protein. I'm actually getting a little tired of it myself. Yeah, they've got up here in Canada protein coffee, protein fortified cereal, protein breads. People in my community are hoping they come out with protein fortified wine. I would prefer you get your protein in a whole food source. But the reason we do keep harping on it is because women don't eat a lot of protein. And this is also true too if you live on your own. I know if my husband travels, the first thing I'm going to turn to is toast for dinner. I'm not going to make a full protein meal. But research consistently shows that women over 40 need at least 30 to 35 grams of high quality protein per meal to trigger that muscle protein synthesis. So this is the protein the process that actually builds and repairs your muscle. See, what happens when you lift weights at the appropriate load is you're actually doing little tiny microscopic tears to the muscle tissue. It's in that 24 or 48 hours after that the body, and the body's an amazing machine, says, oh, whoa, okay, that bicep wasn't strong enough. Let's go in and knit it denser and stronger. And it requires protein to do that. So to get minimal muscle building benefit, no matter how hard you train, if you don't get enough protein, we aren't going to build that muscle. Most women eat anywhere from 5 to 15 grams of protein per meal. So we really need to take a look at that. So what does 30 grams look like? Well, it's a palm-sized chicken breast, or maybe for breakfast, an omelet with a cup of egg whites and 1 egg. So an egg actually doesn't have a whole heck of a lot of protein. It's got 6 grams. So this is why I always add egg whites so that I can up my protein. You can also do yogurt and a scoop of protein powder. So this is all very doable, but it does require intention. Now, there's been new research from Harvard that shows that women over 40 must refuel, or not must, but should refuel within 45 minutes after training and refuel with protein. Men actually have up to 3 hours. The reason is hormonal. Specifically, we experience a faster loss of muscle protein after exercise. So a post-workout meal of a protein shake with 30 grams of protein 45 minutes after your strength program workout is perfect. Breakfast matters too. We really want that first meal to be protein to break your overnight fast. Because while you've been sleeping, your body has been in a mild catabolic state, meaning it's slowly breaking down muscle for energy. So our first meal of the day needs to break that fast and send signals to switch into repair mode. So tea and toast, not ideal. That omelet, perfect. If some of you practice intermittent fasting, you may want to bring that window of fasting instead of noon to 8, starting your first meal at 10 a.m. and front loading your protein. Oh, skipped ahead too soon. Creatine. Now let's talk creatine. You may have been hearing about this as well. Or you may have thought maybe it's just for male bodybuilders, and it was at one point. Creatine is now one of the most extensively researched dietary supplements ever studied. It has over 1,000 peer-reviewed studies with evidence for women, especially women over 40, and it's super compelling. Creatine is stored in our muscles and used during high-intensity exercise, like strength training. So the more available creatine we have, the more reps we can pump out, the more output, the faster we recover between our sets. Over time, this is obviously going to lead to greater strength gains because we are able to lift heavier weights. This is critical for women because we actually naturally have 70 to 80% lower creatine stores than men. So we have a lower baseline level. We also tend to eat less red meat where creatine is found. This means supplementing creatine is going to close that gap that actually exists for women. So this isn't just optimizing your diet. This is actually addressing a real deficit. For creatine, I recommend creatine monohydrate, full stop. It's the most studied form, the most effective, and the cheapest. How much should you be taking? 3 to 5 grams on days that you're strength training, or many of in our community takes it daily because they're also showing cognitive improvement too. There's no need to load if you start getting into creatine and Google it. There's a whole loading phase. Don't bother. Start with 3 to 5, do daily grams. Consistency is going to matter much more than timing. So as well. So take your creatine whenever you want. Just mix it in with your protein shake post-workout meal. Some more things that the research says. We mentioned this, 12 sets for general fitness guidelines per muscle group. Now, this may seem like a lot, but if, for instance, I get you to do some squats, some deadlifts, or maybe some hip thrusts. So there's 3 exercises. We do 3 sets in one workout. Now we've got 9 sets already for the lower body. So we've almost hit that target. So it's not as scary as it seems. The other thing to think about too is osteoporosis, and nobody ever thinks about it until they actually get it, unfortunately. In the US alone, over 10 million people have it. It's a significant amount of people. Now, regular strength training 2 to 3 times a week, it's going to increase your bone mineral density and then prevent age-related bone loss that happens to us as we're postmenopausal. Studies show that progressive training can actually improve our spine and hip bone mineral density by up to 3.8% was the average. Strength training is going to reduce our falls. Now, if you're in your 40s, you're like, yeah, big deal. But as we get older, that fall starts looking a little more serious. Falls are actually the #1 cause of injury-related death to women over 65. So strength training is going to help improve your balance, and we quite often will mix in balance with the strength. So this is going to cut your risk in half, making strength training preventative. And then sleep. Who here, menopause and after, has challenges sleeping? Yeah, right here. I've tried everything, but I know when I'm not strength training, I don't sleep as well, and the science supports that. 46% of women do report sleep difficulties around menopause. And if we exercise, especially in the morning, that's going to shift our melatonin and help us fall asleep faster at night. This sleep is when all the growth happens too with our muscles. So we really want to make sleep important. It's important for performance and for longevity. Now, a few mistakes that I see women make when they start their exercise program. First, we mentioned earlier, doing only cardio. And let me be upfront, cardio is not the enemy. I love to run as well, but it can't be your only tool. Consistent steady state cardio is going to elevate your cortisol, which is actually going to work against muscle building in perimenopausal women. The pivot is to make strength your foundation and keep your cardio shorter and more intense HIIT program. Another one is not enough protein. We covered that. Most women, maybe 50 to 60 grams per day. The target is really that 30 to 35 grams per meal, or 0.7 to 1 per pound of body weight. So for a 150-pound woman, that's 105 to 150 grams of protein daily. It does sound like a lot until you start tracking it. Skipping rest. More is not always better. Training is the stimulus. Recovery is where the adaptation happens. Skipping rest days, especially after 40, leads to elevated cortisol, poor sleep, increased injury risk, and plateau. So your recovery days are your progress days. Training too light. If you can do 15 plus reps easily, you're not challenging your muscles enough to grow. We want progressive overload, adding weights, reps over time, and that's the key driver for your results. Your muscles need to be challenged. Now, with that said, if you like exercise programs like bar or Pilates, they use quite lightweight, but their reps are really high to help you stimulate that muscle growth. And finally, ignoring sleep and stress. Cortisol will sabotage your progress. Chronic stress, work, family life is going to keep that cortisol elevated. Now, we can't get rid of those things, but we can manage that through exercise, meditation, deep breathing, mindfulness activities. We can't out-train a cortisol problem. So you need to something that will help bring down that cortisol levels. My favorite is yoga, and then at night I do my meditation. I don't sit cross-legged meditating. I lie down and I use that as my decompression. It helps me set the tone for a good night's sleep. So what are your 30 days? If you were my client, this is what I would ask you to do. If you weren't already doing strength training, I would ask you to do 2 full body strength sessions a week, 30 minutes, simple compound moves, squats, deadlifts, rows, chest presses. I'd ask you to hit 20 grams of protein every meal. And then I would ask you to add a 10-minute walk after your largest meal. That's typically dinner for a lot of us. This is specifically for blood sugar management. It doesn't have to be intense. And then I'd ask you to start tracking your sleep, because we can't improve something that we don't measure. Once we've designed or built a bit of a habit, we can up the intensity on that. Let's add a 3rd session of strength. Let's introduce 1 balance-focused exercise per session, maybe. We can even do that while we're doing things about the house, brushing your teeth, stand on 1 leg, putting the dishes in your dishwasher, do a 1-leg deadlift. For exercise, you could do a single leg stance, like a lunge, some step-ups, some Bulgarian split squats. I would also see if you could be more disciplined about adding a 45-minute post-workout protein shake, maybe with that creatine if you were interested in. And then from there, after 4 to 6 weeks, make note of your energy, mood, and sleep quality, because you will notice they are changing. As you see, this is a sample week on the very bottom of this page. Monday, Wednesday, Friday strength. Those aren't written in stone. They can be Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday as well. That's what they are in our community. But all I want you to see, the structure there is that you have a day or 48 hours rest in your strength. So if you're working total body, we want that 48-hour rest so that muscle can rebuild itself. If you like to train on back-to-back days, then that's where we would do what's called a split body routine. So perhaps upper body one day, and then you are free to go to town on the lower body the next day, offering ample amount of time for that rest and recovery, which we now know is really important as we age. Now, it's also really crucial to add here that perfection is the enemy of progress. If you miss a session of exercise, a week, or even a month, you have not failed. We're doing this for the long term. You're building a habit. 2 sessions a week done consistently will change your body. You are not past your prime. You are exactly at the moment where the right information and the right training will change everything. So I'd love, if you haven't already, start strength training. Your body is waiting for this. I guarantee it. If you need more guidance, here's where you can find us or me. And we do have a 14-day trial. Thank you so much for having me, and we'll take some questions. And I hope, though, that you did get 1 or 2 nuggets of information to help you age strong.
Thank you so much, BJ. I think that was very informative. Certainly, I view a lot of people don't seem to know a lot about creatine yet. As I've been reading about that, seems to be something that's very important, and also the whole eating protein, especially right after. Does it work also to do that right before training, or does it need to be after?
For protein, after. So before, we're looking more carbohydrate to fuel the muscles.
Okay,
so
great.
yeah, so like a half a banana. I myself can't work out with a lot of food in my stomach, so you'll have to judge on that. You also don't want anything too heavy, because you are going to be training hard, and you don't want your digestive system having to digest your food while also help you do your lifts. So half a banana usually works for most people.
Okay, great. I have a question here about, is doing yoga regularly, gently flow yoga, is that considered strength training?
Push-ups would be the chaturanga in yoga, but no, unfortunately, we need external load, something more than our own body weight, to stimulate that muscle.
The next, adding to that question was elastic bands, but I know that some of my favorite workouts that you do are using bands, so I love them. But tell us your thoughts on bands.
Yes, elastic bands, because they do provide resistance. They're also great for rehab too. Now, 15 years ago, we used to recommend not using bands for bone density purposes, that they found that it didn't increase bone density. And then the latest research in the last 5 years is yes, bands can improve our bone density as well. I love bands in particular to travel with. They fit really easily in your bag. You can even buy door attachments, in which it's just a loop to shut the door on, to turn it in, so you can turn your band into a row, into a tricep, a pull down. You can find them on Amazon. They're very inexpensive, and they're great, as I mentioned, to travel with. We travel quite a bit, and that's what I'll bring 2 bands, booty band, and my door holder, for
Right,
lack of not knowing the name of it.
I take the bands when I travel also for just that reason. I never know when I'm
Yeah,
in the gym.
yeah. But then don't feel like you have to work out either when you go away, right? You're creating memories. So I'm all about, this is the long run. When you look at your entire life from above, if we miss a month because we were traveling, having fun, being with our family, creating memories, that's cool. You've got the rest of your life still to continue training. So
Great. Oh, I can miss a whole month? I don't think I want to do that. Um, 12 sets. What is considered a set or 12 sets? What do you mean by that?
So when you do an exercise for a certain number of times, so say I do it 10 bicep curls, that's called a set. And then we'll rest, or I quite often will then work another body part while the bicep rests and then go back. So that's a set, a grouping of exercises or grouping of repetitions.
Yep. And when you say 12, you're talking about, so I might use those biceps 3 different times a week if I get 12 sets in for the bicep.
Exactly. And recognizing too that your biceps help and assist in your row patterns and your pull down patterns as well. So the research isn't asking you to just work your quads 12 sets, just work your hamstrings 12 sets. Those muscles will work collectively in your squat patterns, your lunge patterns, your step ups.
Yep. Great. What about weighted vests? I've heard those could be good for muscle, for bone density, for when you're walking or hiking.
Yeah, so weighted vests got really big probably a year ago, and they thought that it would have some impact on the bone, but it doesn't. You actually need to stimulate more force than 8 to 20 pounds that a lot of people are wearing. So I'm not saying don't use a weighted vest, but if you don't have a history of compression fractures or herniated discs, a weighted vest is a great way to walk, or some people even use it to increase their intensity when they're doing cardio activities to burn more calories. So but it is not one that we now recommend to increase bone density.
Oh, interesting. Okay, I heard the bone density bit on that, but no. Okay.
No, a researcher actually in Canada came out with that, yeah, a year ago. So if you really are concerned about the bones, jumping in your bare feet on a hard surface, that's enough load that will stimulate. With that said, if you've never jumped before, please don't start and doing it every day. We've had a few people start to do that, and that's going to cause an overuse injury. We need to always start loading slowly and progressively.
Okay. And talk to me a little bit more about jumping or that kind of power move, because I hear a lot about that.
Yeah, so power exercises like snatches, cleans, or jump squats or box jumps, you might see those as well. Those are working our fast.
What are the weighted balls? I've also heard about those with related with
Yeah. A lot of people don't use those at home though, because you do need a wall to throw it against, and nobody wants to throw something against their own wall or somebody else to throw it at. But yeah, anything that requires speed and strength is a
Yep.
power exercise. And we do a lot of that over on Over 50 Fitness too, because we lose our fast twitch muscle fibers, the ability to move fast with speed, faster than any other muscle fiber. So if you see an older person shuffle across the street, that's because they've lost their fast twitch muscle fibers. So even if I was working with somebody who had osteoporosis, was in their 80s, we would still work fast twitch muscle fibers. It would just look very different than if I was training you, Barbara, on your fast twitch muscle fibers. So I
Great.
would recommend that you slowly integrate that. If you are training consistently, then you could probably add it in. You can get little tastes of it if you want to try on my YouTube channel, Fitness with PJ, and just not every workout has power drills in it, but quite a few, I'd say good 50% of them do.
Okay. And two more questions, and then we'll let you get out of here. Recovery. Recovery can still have some amount of movement in those days. Is that right?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, 100%. So what I don't want you to do is strength train or do a HIIT cardio. So recovery can be yoga, it can be stretching, it can be a walk, it can be mobility drills. Absolutely. And I do program those and recommend that. It's a great time to add that because you're not doing a traditional program anyways, so let's do it.
Then just real quickly, as many people, and I have been guilty of in the past, especially when I start playing with my dumbbells at home, I forget about warm up. Just a little bit on warm up, what you recommend for that.
Well, every workout, yeah, the warm up needs to warm up what you're going to train. And anywhere from dependent on whether you're arthritic or not, 5 to 10 minutes. So it's movement based. We're not holding a stretch. That's a static stretch. Instead, we're doing arm circles. We're doing curls, maybe with a really light weight or just with tubing, something that's not taxing the muscle, but we're warming up the muscle, warming up the connective tissue and the synovial fluid on the joints. It can be body weight squats, preparing us for weighted squat. That idea for jogging, you're right. You walk before, and then if you've had previous injuries, then maybe we'll do a little bit more calf raises, toe raises, that sort of thing. But we want to prepare, and I like to tell people you're preparing your muscles, connective tissue, and joints, and your mind for the workout about to happen.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, PJ. That was really, really informative. I think gave people some things to think about, especially along the lines of diet and how to put together a routine and what to do on different days. And as I said at the beginning of this, please at least find PJ on YouTube and check out her Over 50 Fitness, because there's so much from you and some other trainers out there on Over 50 Fitness, and addressing so much more than just strength on that channel also.
Yeah, come and join us.
Great. All right, thank you, and thank you to everybody who showed up, and I hope you all
Thank you.
And do some warm up and play with a few of the dumbbells.
Have a good day, everyone.
Thank you, PJ.
Bye.